So we're going to look at how to break down a programming problem in order to work out how to code it. So you might get a problem in the exam which looks a bit like this. So Seema, a primary school teacher, would like to write a program for year 1 students to help them learn the difference between 4 different shapes. She wants them to use 2 categories to help identify the shape, number of sides, and are the sides all the same length. So this first little paragraph here is just really kind of setting out the problem. There's a scenario. Now, when you're answering these kind of questions, the scenario is there to kind of give a bit of context. However, it is actually not that important, okay? What is important is what comes next. We want to use 2 categories, okay? The number of sides and the sides all the same. So that bit of the information is really important. One of the skills you have to develop when answering exam questions is to determine what is going to be useful, what is not going to be useful, what do you need to pay attention to, what can you ignore, okay? That is effectively abstraction, okay? That's abstraction in action. So here we've got a table. Now, if you ever get a table of data in the exam, that means it is always important, okay? And no matter what it is, it's important. Now in this case, it's helping us kind of identify 4 different types of shape, and then we've got some information here. Then it says write an algorithm. Now if it says write an algorithm, what it really means is write some code. So it's going to prompt. That's going to be important. So enter the number of sides. So we've got 1 prompt, and then if the sides are all the same size. Second prompt. They'll then have a guess. Well, in order to have a guess, we have a third prompt at what they think it is. The program will then display if they're right or not. There's quite a lot of detail in the last statement, so we'll come back to that one. So let's start off with the easy stuff. So we've got prompts. Now, when you have some English, an English problem, we need to decompose it first. So the first thing we need to do is ask, or let's use the same word, prompt for the number of sides. Then we need to prompt for if the sides are all the same length, and then prompt them for their guess. So that's the first 3 things we need to do, okay? And what I've done is I've just kind of pulled them out. I've written them down as a list, a decomposed bullet point list, because then what I can do is then turn them into code. Now, if we think about this, number of sides, are the sides the same length, and prompt them for their guess. Now, the word prompt in coding can be represented with an input command. So what we got now is essentially 3 input commands. Now I'm going to ignore the fact that it says number of sides, and if I was doing this in Python, I might use int input, but let's not worry about that for now because it will work just as well with a string. Okay, so I need 3 inputs. Whenever you have an input, remember the code pattern we need to use is going to be variable equals input. So I need to work out what variable I'm going to use. So I'm just going to highlight number of sides of the same length. Might use the length. And then guess. So I just need some sensible variable name to help represent those. So let's actually get this into our Python just to get us started. I won't do all 3. I'm just going to show you an example. So size equals input. And then I need some kind of question to go with it. Enter the number of sides. Okay. So that is what you would do, and you do that for the other 2 bits as well. So that's the first thing we need to do. The second thing is the program will display if they're right or not. Now, here's a big tip. Here it says if they're right or not. That is a choice, isn't it? It either is right or it's not right. Now, when we think about choices, immediately you should be thinking if statement. Okay, so we normally have in programming, we have inputs, we have prints, we have if statements, and we have loops. They're our most basic bog standard coding. Now, I've already kind of done some inputs, because I've just done that now. Okay, but there's nothing to repeat. I'm not doing this more than once, so it's definitely not a loop. So I'm left with my if statement as a choice. So if they're right or not. So in order to work out if they're right or not, remember I said this statement needs a little bit more. Well, what we've got to do is work out, first of all, which shape is it? I need to know what the correct shape is. So if size is equal to 4 and the length is no. So what am I saying here? Well, has it got 4 sides and is the length no? Well, in that case, the correct answer is going to be a rectangle. Now, what have I done? Well, both of these have to be true in order for that to be true. So essentially, I've got, my right here, an and there, don't I? Which is why I've got my and here. I'm using equals equals because they have to be exactly the same. They can't be different. And I'm just using the same values that are in this table. Okay, and all I've done is I've written that row in the table out as an if statement. Okay, I've represented it as an if statement. So how would it look like in code? Well, if size is equal to 4. Now, because I'm fully aware that's an input, so I probably should use it as a string. If you didn't write that down in the exam, you wouldn't lose any marks. It's absolutely fine. Length equals no. Then correct equals rectangle. And then I could do the same for the next one. If, or to be more correct, elif. I think that's probably better, but if is absolutely fine in this example. If size equals 4 and length is equal to yes, it is, they're all the same length, then correct equals square. And what I'm doing is I'm using this correct variable to say what is the correct answer. Once I've got that, and I'm going to do that for all 4, so I'm going to just put times by 4 there. And the fifth thing I'm going to do is if the, well, let's just write a bit more coding, excuse me. If correct is equal to guess, then display you are correct. Otherwise, display you are wrong. Okay, now how would I turn those last 2 statements into code? Well, remember I said we have print, if statements, loops and inputs as our core 4 kind of things. Well, display is another word for print. So let's see how that would look like in coding. So I'm going to put ... to say, well, there's a couple more to put in here. And then I'm going to go if correct is equal to guess, print you are correct. Then obviously, otherwise in coding is just else. It's either this, else it's this. Okay, and then I can do my print as before. So taking this problem, breaking it down, and working out what I need to do each one, okay, is what you need to do. What I've shown you is how to abstract it and decompose it, and then I've showed pattern matching to get there. So let's just summarize that. I've abstracted, focused on the important part. Okay, let's just make that bigger so we can re-see it. I then, second, decomposed. Wrote it out as a set of clear steps. Number 3, pattern matched. Use my coding knowledge to select the correct the correct code for each step. And then obviously I'll just put it all together. Okay. Now, obviously there's a lot of steps there, and I've gone through that in a lot of detail, but hopefully you can see how I did it. The more practice you get, the faster you can do this, okay? And certainly the more experienced GC students should be able to do that one incredibly quickly. That's a bit longer than the exam questions you probably would end up getting, but I wanted to give you something a bit more meaty to really kind of help you break this down fully. Just to be really clear, that's not the final answer, by the way. You need to finish it off, so you need to add some more code here, some more code here, and also some more code here. Okay, so don't assume that's the correct answer. Okay, you need to do a bit more work than that.